Sometime before now. Wait, actually, not that long ago. The year is 2022, and after more than a decade of hopes and dreams, finally the big green boy Master Chief is coming to the big screen in a live adaptation of the game Halo. This was the game that fundamentally shaped Xbox as we know it, launched thousands of LAN parties, sent teabagging into the stratosphere, and created a generation of sci-fi enthusiasts that could recognize this song in their sleep. This was a game that a lot of us can still quote to this day.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.
Unfortunately for us both, I like crazy.
Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
But that entire cutscene is forever surgically implanted into my goofy gamer brain, as well as so many others from the franchise. So when Paramount announced they were adapting one of gaming's most beloved franchises into a television series, yeah, you best believe our expectations went way up. We had high hopes, and the biggest question we all had was if they could actually do it justice and honor the games, or would it be another unfortunate disappointing adaptation and mess like so many others. And after 2 seasons of mostly poor reception from fans, anger, and for whatever reason, love for the show, finally it was cancelled. It has been over a year now since the show finally finished, so to kick off this new series, I went back and rewatched the entire Halo TV show from start to finish so you don't have to. I will try to give a complete breakdown and retrospective analysis of what it got right, what it got wrong, and if it is as bad as I thought it was. Also, sorry if I sound a bit sick or off at the moment. I haven't been feeling the best lately, so I apologize in advance. And just a warning, there will be some spoilers about the show, as I can't really avoid that. Now, with any show, there is always someone who thinks their idea is the better one to do, and they only want to do their version of said thing without actually knowing or asking what people truly want, which on its own, and in some cases, can be fine for the most part. And that is what we got with their version they called the Silver Timeline. But what makes things infuriating for most people like myself is when not only is there tons of source material you could base your idea and version off of, but it seems you straight up disrespect and virtually spit on the original material. That seems to be a reoccurring thing with a lot of TV shows nowadays. The creators or showrunners or whatever you want to call them, right out of the gate made it well known that not only is this their version in a completely different timeline, but they didn't even look at or play the damn games. That is probably not something they should have admitted. Immediately, red flags and alarm bells for me start ringing. The only person that I could find that actually took the time to play the games and try to understand the world and the characters was Pablo Schreiber himself, so respect to him for that. And I want to make it clear as well, it isn't the actor's fault for the poor writing or the decisions for the direction of this show. I will almost always stand by the belief that actors are just that. They're actors. They do the best they can with what they're given. So I don't fault them for the poor writing or the decision to take this show in the direction it went. It isn't their fault. So with the introduction of this Silver Timeline, this did give them the power to create something that has the core concept of Halo, but has a completely separate story to the games, which, for longtime Halo fans like myself, was kind of exciting and also absolutely terrifying. On one hand, it meant nothing was off the table. Anything could happen and we couldn't explicitly rely on what we knew the story was or what it was going to be. It could end up being completely different. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gave them free rein to explore so many aspects of things that we never got to see in the games or in the world, which sounds good in theory. And sadly, they ultimately failed at that. While rewatching this show, this choice honestly was their greatest mistake and most significant weakness I think it had. Every episode feels like a constant struggle and negotiation between our love and nostalgia for the Chief we know and their failed attempt at innovation in trying to bring a unique story to the table. Like they're trying to say, look, Chief is Chief. You like him, right? But here is 50 other random things that no one truly asked for or even remotely cares about. While rewatching the entire show, it is abundantly clear that they didn't really think about or understand what made Halo loved by so many in the first place. Now, I understand the need for adapting certain things to work in a live action setting, like Chief, I keep calling them Cheeks, it's Chief, like Cheek, I keep doing it, sakes, like Chief taking off his helmet. A lot of the time while rewatching the show, I couldn't help but ask myself, who was this made for? It almost came across as if it was trying to be a Game of Thrones drama series, but set in some futuristic sci-fi landscape. And I think that's part of the problem with their silver timeline idea. They really moved away from what made Halo Halo. And you know, most things that have their own multiverse, there's still some direct connection or similarities within those universes. Both universes usually have a point of divergence, a point that starts the initial change or causes the other to exist in the first place. You know, something that connects them but ultimately drastically changes them. And they did not do that type of thing. With this silver timeline idea they came up with, there was no real premise to that initial point of divergence, nor did they even explain it or attempt to at all. This version of Chief we got wasn't the Chief we know. It wasn't even the Cortana we know. It wasn't any of the characters we know. It was all completely different. And I mean completely different. Which sure, you can do that. I don't have a problem with that initially, but if you can't mentally make the connection or fundamentally lack the ability to realize why people love Halo and more importantly love the Chief and Cortana and all the other characters, then of course your idea is going to fail. Halo is mostly about the Covenant War, not some political infighting romance novel. We didn't want to see Game of Thrones, the Halo sequel, starring Quan. Hell, half the show is spent with characters that I don't care about. Half the show is about freaking Quan. Every time she's on screen, I'm just hoping the scene goes quick. It's called Halo, not called The Quan Show. With there being so many things that they created for this timeline that were just poorly thought out and poorly executed, I can, however, admit that there are some good things they did do that I actually enjoyed. So I guess now is a good time to get into the good and the bad of this show. For all its bad writing, when the Chief is being Chief, honestly, that is done well, and I did enjoy them. The battles and the fights we get to see aren't that bad at all, when we do get to see them, which of course isn't all that often. In the entirety of the first season, there isn't a lot of times we get to see Chief do what Chief does best. The first episode opens really strong, and they don't hold any punches with it. Literally, people are getting blown apart, and when the Chief drops in, that was, and even rewatching it is, still an incredible moment where I found myself going,
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes!
That was probably one of 3 moments in the entire first season that I genuinely enjoyed. And there was some nice additions, and if you can call it a kickback to the game, things like this.
Pod doors opening. Infantry incoming. Jackal at 2 o'clock. 2 more flanking right. Switch to secondary.
I know how the game is played, Cortana. Mind if I try?
And even some of the additions in Cortana, like her activation line, or her saying it again in the final episode.
When the game is over, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. John. When the game is over, the king and the pawn go back into the same box.
Those things really do connect. I actually really did like these moments. The addition of other Spartans was a good idea. I did like that, and it was nice to see more than just the Chief himself. But aside from the 3 battles we got, honestly, there isn't a lot I cared for in season 1. You could pretty much just watch episode 1, 3, 5, and 9, and you could probably skip episode 3 unless you cared to see Cortana activated for the first time, which is in the first half of the episode, and the rest is pretty much irrelevant. And I genuinely mean that. If you just watched 1, 5, and 9, the story still makes perfect sense. and it's actually kinda better. If you watch them in that order, it skips most of the useless stuff, and it's more in line with the Halo we know and the characters we know. Season 2, surprisingly, it does get a bit better, but it's still mostly more of the same as the first season. The best thing about Season 2 compared to Season 1 is that there is a shift in focus in the narrative. They focus more on Halo and the Covenant War itself. And another good addition that we did see was that they started training better soldiers to fight the Covenant. And I will say, the finale of this season was way better than the finale of the first season. Hell, the entire season, for the most part, felt more like Halo. However, with that being said, of course, they had to pad a lot of the episodes with filler subplots and random things that I don't see why they thought this was a good addition. I honestly don't. Now this brings us into the bad section. What I think this show ultimately lacked, honestly, it was just focus. They bounce all over the place with characters and subplots that are honestly just not good. They want you to care about characters like Soren and his family or Quan, but honestly, I just didn't and don't care about them at all. Most times, I had to physically stop myself from skipping ahead to the next scene. All the characters they even added, like Maki, or however you pronounce it, to try and show some of Chief's humanity, just comes across as super cringy and just poorly written. They had a really good chance to show and develop some of Chief's humanity in both seasons, but in both seasons, all their attempts are honestly not that great. With Perez, there were some really good moments, but then you contrast that to the awkward, cringy dinner he goes to, and some of the lines in that dialogue there, it's just so bad.
What's your KDR? Kill-death ratio?
And then you start to ask yourself, why? Why was that included? Why, like that scene, was so many other completely useless scenes and subplots or characters added into the show when in reality, no one cares. No one wanted that, and no one asked for it. So who thought this was a good idea? All these characters that have their own stories that they try to flesh out just come across as time fillers, and I wanted them to end. They want you to care about these characters, but I don't at all. In the second season, yeah, they did make more of a focus on the combat side of things and the war itself, but it's like they can't pick a consistent lane because they keep throwing in all this random nonsense. I swear, like 60% of the show, it feels like, is just about random characters and political infighting. It is quite apparent that they really didn't understand what makes Halo so loved. First and foremost, Master Chief is a soldier above everything else. That is the bottom line. He's a one-man army willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. He is as badass and as hard as they come. No matter what you throw at him, he will always get up. And I'll be brutally honest, they made it seem like he was on the verge of a mental breakdown every episode almost. And I sort of understand what they were trying to do and have him answer the question that he struggles to answer of, is he more man than machine, or is he more machine than man? And that's what I mean when I say it feels like it lacked focus. They kept ping-ponging between him being a total unit and him in the next scene all teary-eyed and looking like he's on the verge of a breakdown. I don't know, maybe that is what they were going for. The duty of a soldier versus the humanity that ends up getting left behind. But the Covenant War should have been the focus. Brutally honest, I don't think most people care about that emotional aspect to Chief. And the only emotional aspect I think the majority of us do care about is the bond that builds between Chief and Cortana. Everything else, throw it out the window. Rewatching the show, I really felt like all of those characters could have all been summed up in brief little flashbacks or one-off episodes for them, and then we move on. Not entire season arcs revolving around what they're doing that ultimately doesn't even pay off in the end. That's just useless information that serves no purpose. And I know why they added them. It was to add more characters and to make for a more dramatic story. But it ultimately feels like what it truly is, just filler garbage. For a show that is supposed to be about humanity's survival and our big green boy here whooping some alien ass, it sure feels like everything except for that. It is everything around that without it being directly about that, which just makes for a boring story that no one likes. And for a show called Halo, you can't take 2 seasons to get to the point of it. You're just setting yourself up for failure. If you remove all this filler stuff, the entire show can be summed up in like 8 episodes. And I'm not even kidding. There's like 4 episodes from each season that actually matter, and truthfully, me being me, I started cutting down all the episodes just to prove it before realizing, why the hell am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I wasted like half a day doing that, and I really gotta stop doing that. The final verdict I would give this show is a 4 out of 10. Look, it isn't a horrible, worst TV show I've ever seen sort of show, but if you've played Halo or know what it is, you will most likely hate so many things about this show. It will drive you up a wall. On the other hand, if you have no clue what Halo is, you will probably not completely hate this show, and you may even find it good. But for me, growing up with Halo, that's why this show gets a 4 out of 10. There is some redeeming things it has, some good fights, good things added, but overall, it's just meh. It's not terrible where you want to watch it because it's so bad, but it isn't great either that you're so captivated and just want to keep watching. The moments that are really good and keep you fixated are fleeting and far and few between at best. And the minute you get excited and into it, it's over just as fast as it began. And the next scene will have you going, ugh. A lot of the show seems to want to tell a story that's set apart from its original, and that, on the surface, isn't necessarily a bad thing. The problem with this show, however, is it didn't do any of that creatively. I'm not sure who this show was made for. It wasn't made for the original Halo fans, and it obviously didn't bring enough new viewers to justify its existence. But really, who's it for? The show seems to want to tell more about the world and characters, while ultimately, it says nothing about them at all. Most of the characters they added, sure, maybe a few people did actually care about them, but seeing as it got cancelled, yeah, it's safe to say the majority of us didn't care about them. And for the most part, the stories they tried to tell were honestly just not that good. There was a lot to be wanted from this show, and it failed to deliver on almost all fronts. I don't think I'm being unfair by saying that. I feel like they wanted to create something different, but never fully understood at all what makes Halo itself loved by so many. They attempted to make it more than just about Chief and the war, but that's what Halo is. You can't have a story without that. That has to be the sole focus of the show. And in my opinion, what made Halo so amazing was the fact that Chief was this kind of nebulous, mysterious person that we all got to pretend we were. I understand the need for adapting him to have his helmet off for a TV show. That does make sense. But the majority of the show should have been with him having it on and him in his armor. The story should have focused on those moments more than the moments of trying to portray his humanity to us. We understand he's a human under that armor, but his armor is kind of what defines him as a character himself. The story is filled with random plot holes, random nonsense that most times don't have anything to do with the plot itself, but are their own self-contained little arcs, and if it does, I ultimately just didn't care about them at all. I didn't care about those characters. I'm here basically for 4 things: Chief, Cortana, Spartans, and the Covenant War. Plain and simple. I ultimately don't really care about anything else. And sure, maybe they didn't have the budget to truly create what they wanted to, but I feel like that's kind of a convenient excuse. And of course, this is Paramount we're talking about. They're not desperate for money. It's unfortunate. I feel because of the show's failures, we will never have a truly good Halo show that we all want and deserve. Having the show flop like it did sort of burned the bridges for it in the future, and it would take a lot for another studio or Paramount to decide to take another crack at it, which truly sucks. I feel like a lot of game adaptations really don't understand what makes them so loved or the connection that we have to them, and their refusal to understand that will continue to ruin so many potentially good TV shows because of that lack of fundamental understanding. And honestly, it really is unfortunate. Well, I guess that about wraps up this video, and I'm sorry it took a bit longer than I would have liked to make this. I've been kind of experimenting with ways to do new things, even with or without camera, and just testing what I'm comfortable with. So again, I apologize for the delay. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this series can be something you all enjoy. If you have any suggestions for TV shows that you'd like me to watch and review, or even movies for that matter, please do leave them in the comments below. and let me know what you thought of this video and the Halo show itself. Thanks for watching today's video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single video that gets released. Thanks again for watching.